So Timo, we are going to talk about containerization today, but first can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Timo. I'm a systems and software engineer at Klarrio. And I'm mostly active in the Devops space, so I work with Ansible, Kubernetes, and ECOS.
Okay, and what is containerization?
A container is essentially a process on a machine. That's it. It's isolated from other processes on the same host by using advanced kernel features. And modern implementations of a container, what we call a container, are run using Docker or Rocket or LXC or any of the other competing solutions out there. In general, they package a lightweight Linux OS along with their app. And they only include the programs that are absolutely necessary to run the application, just to make it as lightweight as possible. Also, in the case of Docker, they offer a user-friendly toolchain to build this package or image, as we call it, reproducibly on any machine.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like a virtual machine. How does it differ from it?
Unlike containers, VMs, they emulate a full computer, so they emulate memory, processing, networking, etc. And they run an independent operating system kernel inside of this emulation. It's expensive because even today some hardware functions need to be simulated in software. So this increases the amount of work that needs to be done to go from A to B to do the exact same workload, right? So this emulation layer adds overhead that is paid for in additional hardware costs and then just general higher hardware requirements.
So what are the advantages of working with containers?
So the benefits of running containers is that it doesn't require this emulation layer at all. It results in lower overhead, it allows more workloads to be run per compute unit, so the density is much higher. And the application runs much closer to the metal, which is it's a benefit on the latency perspective of things. Container images are also much more convenient to transfer to others or to ship, as we say, because their size is much smaller. They only pack in the things that you really need. It's not a full VM OS image. Executing and running them is as fast and easy as running any other application on a machine. There's no boot time involved at all, just executing the process and you're good.
Okay, there are clearly advantages. But are there also disadvantages? Absolutely.
It's not a perfect solution. It's not a silver bullet. First and foremost, there's a security aspect. Since all applications are run on the same kernel, on the same host, actually, the conventional mindset around VM security is no longer applicable. For example, co-locating untrusted parties on the same machine requires countermeasures that are not strictly required when running them inside VMs. Any container escape vulnerability has potential disastrous consequences in terms of data security. Secondly, there's a slightly fractured ecosystem in the container space. Docker was not the first player on the scene. Before Docker, there was LXC, LXD, which is an Ubuntu-specific implementation, and also Rocket. Although, almost every tool supports or integrates with Docker nowadays. Third, since container images are immutable, persisting data can be somewhat of a challenge in some environments, so you need some extra infrastructure to make this happen usually. And configuring a service happens through setting environment variables on the container itself. But there's other ways of configuring containers like console or etcd or some other service discovery solutions out there.
Yeah, you already mentioned Docker. So what is the role of Docker in the container world?
So containers are not a new concept, but Docker, when Docker came onto the scene, there was this, they delivered this full tool chain for developers to build containers, to publish them, to ship them to production. Just running containers anywhere. It can run on anything. Initially they were based on LXC, which is now a bit of a less popular alternative, but after they took off they wrote their own runtime from scratch. The thing that differentiates them most today is that they run the public Docker Hub. So it's a collection of containers that anyone can contribute to. It's completely free, and you can use it to distribute containers to the masses. You can have as many users as you want.
Okay, clear. But how does it really work, containerization, in practice?
Yeah, so to recap, a container image holds the app and all of its dependencies and configuration. So this means that theoretically a container can run in the exact same environment, whether it's on a developer's machine, a staging environment, or in production. It really doesn't matter. And the most conventional way to containerize an app is by basing your image on an existing distribution like CentOS, Ubuntu, or Alpine if you want to go really lightweight. Second, you add your application binary and your configuration file to the image. And third, you expose a very limited set of environment variables that the user or the person that deploys the software can customize to their own deployment. And many popular apps actually support this out of the box. It's what we call the 12-factor methodology. So this makes it much easier to configure services in a cloud environment where you have limited control over the underlying infrastructure.
Okay, and what's the future of containers?
We see the industry evolving rapidly towards what we call a serverless model. So it doesn't require any kind of knowledge around running your own infrastructure or around setting up VMs or even interacting with the operating system. You just have to ship your container to the cloud provider itself. They take care of running everything for you. They pay the actual overhead of running all the machines, the VMs. On top of that, they just provide you with an interface that you can deploy your containers to. It's very easy. Personally, I hope many businesses start seeing the benefits and the appeal of running containers because it's so much more efficient than running this VM layer in between. And also on the software development side of things, it's a much more efficient workflow for developers too, to be able to containerize and just ship their apps anywhere.
Okay, Timo, thank you for this very interesting talk.
You're very welcome.